Particular meeting or alder.
Consider some new
The older person.
Just making sure. Whatever you want.
but using some route.
Good evening. Welcome to the Common Council meeting for Monday, May 7th, 2008. I'm calling the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Michelle, the roll, please.
Okay, Mayor Kent Atwell is an excused absence this evening. We do not have an alderperson for District 1 at this time. James Barron, District 2.
Here?
Jackie Valdy, District 3.
Here.
Wayne Dean, District 4.
Here.
Matt Grimmer, District 5.
Here.
Al Zietlow is an excused absence this evening. Tim Eicher, District 7.
Here.
And Tom Hafner, Administrator.
Here. Thank you. And with that, if you'll notice, I know this, I don't think this was introduced at the last council meeting by Mayor Atwell, but in the Plan Commission, it kicked off where we asked for citizens' comment for the items that are on the consent agenda first, and then we go on to the regular business, because particularly with the Plan Commission, sometimes you're behind a queue of people with a long litany of comments about something that doesn't apply to you. And it seems to help. Tonight, the only thing on the consent agenda is our Common Council minutes and approved and issued operators licenses. But with that, I will ask for any citizens' comments for items on the consent agenda only. Any citizens' comments for items on the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the consent agenda. Any issues with the consent agenda anyone would like to discuss? Hearing none, consent agenda is approved. With that, we'll move on to citizen of Delafield comments pertaining to items not on the consent agenda, anything that's on the agenda or not. Please.
This is not on the agenda.
Well, please state your name and address.
Pam Wiedmeyer, 2740 Nagawicca Avenue, City of Delafield. Dear Mayor Atwell and council members, it is our ethical responsibility to keep our parks environmentally safe, especially from ticks. Public safety is the #1 priority. Lyme disease, ticks, and deer go hand in hand. As you know, I was disappointed that we were unable to work with the DNR and field volunteers regarding deer management. However, I respected your decision. Cost is always a concern. As a resident, I am also concerned. Earlier this year, the city had 20 deer killed at a cost of almost $500 per deer. On Monday, March 19, 2018, the council approved a draft deer management plan. Earlier on that same day, I received a letter from a common council member. In part, it read, I would suggest that some of your energy could be used to combat the Heartland Sportsman's Club. Combat is a strong word. My only purpose in addressing the Common Council was to present alternative methods for deer management that in turn will control the tick problems in our parks. Please consider my attached volunteer application for a position on the Deer Management Committee. I believe I have the ability to represent the residents of our beautiful city. I have for you a copy of what I just read and also a copy of page 2. I believe I have very good references on here, experience, interest, and education. So please consider my application for that committee. And that said, I will hand these out to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments for items on or off the agenda for tonight's meeting? Any other citizens' comments?
This is for the mayor.
All right, with that, I will consider citizens' comments closed. Following that, we have a special order of business, a presentation by Phil Cosin regarding he's our municipal advisor regarding our loans and promissory notes that we're about to enter into.
Good evening. Good to be back in Delafield. Nice to see everybody. We have one new member. I see that. I don't think I've met. Phil Cosin with Ellers and Associates, and we've been working with the city on capital borrowings and a few other items like tax increment financing over the last, for quite some time now, 10 plus years. So nice to meet you. We have one item for your consideration. There is a pre-sale report that's in your packet. I'm going to spend a few minutes to go through the pre-sale report with you. We also have a corresponding resolution, and just before we get into the information too deep, what we're asking of you tonight is to give us authorization to proceed with the capital borrowing. And as always, that will set in motion working with city staff to make sure that we put together the appropriate documents to be able to issue the notes, and then we'll be back we'll be back for a bond sale actually at a later date. I'll go through the timing in a little more detail in a little bit. So in the pre-sale report, we've been working with Marie and Tom in putting together a financing for the city's upcoming capital needs. We have identified the list of capital projects to be financed on page 5 of the report. You can see that it includes your annual street improvement program, dump truck with plow, and then a high-pressure engine tanker combined with the 2001 Pierce engine. Those are the projects. Your list of projects was greater than that. There was a memo also from Marie Williams where you have some unspent proceeds that will be used to pay for the other projects as well that were identified in your capital list. So these are the remaining projects to finance. So we're looking for authorization of the $1,140,000 general obligation note issue. Again, that'll set in motion a number of steps. One, probably a very important one, is we'll be having a rating call with Moody's Investor Service. The city's sits with a very, very strong AA2 rating. So we'll have to go through the process of a rating with Moody's in the next couple of weeks. This will be a 10-year note, which is consistent with what the city has undertaken in regards to normal capital borrowing. You haven't seen me for a while in that you've been actually advancing money primarily from your sewer utility for some capital that we have kind of built into, and you have a repayment schedule, but I think you're to the point in that fund balance that you want to make sure that you preserve enough for any future sewer projects that you would have as well. So we have the sizing on page 5 of the projects, and on page 6 is a finance plan which lays out where you are today as far as your tax rate for debt, and then takes into account the proposed 2018 issue, and then projects again where you're going to be with a tax rate for debt, and that's the second column from the right. In the middle of the page, you'll see all the offsetting revenues, which include the advances being paid back to the sewer fund for previous capital expenditures. As always, we have estimated rates. Here we've used a recent bond sale from a AA2 rated community, added 0.25%. It was out a little bit about a month ago. We've seen rates actually creeping up. We hope they'll level off nicely for the summer, which typically happens. But we have included in the last page of the packet a bond chart which shows you what's really transpired over the last year. And you're kicking yourself for not borrowing money in December probably, but that's how everybody feels. When you look at it over a longer period of time, rates are still very attractive in the municipal market. So that's what we have for you. There is, as I mentioned, a corresponding resolution. The resolution, again, is authorizing the sale, and it's a not-to-exceed amount of $1,140,000. Last year, you changed your bond attorney, bond counsel. It was Chapman Cutler out of Chicago area. The individual that worked with the city retired, and now you're working with Hush Blackwell out of Milwaukee, and they are the firm that prepared the actual resolution for you. If you go to the page 4 of this pre-sale report, the timeline has been laid out. Again, tonight's giving us authorization. We're expecting to have a rating call if it's approved tonight on May 21st or the week of May 21st. And then we have, again, at the request of staff, this will be a parameter sale like we did last time. So parameter sales means we'll establish the parameters of the sale. If they are met on the sale day, then they will be approved. They have to be signed off by city staff. As always, we will prepare a final sale packet for you. It'll be distributed to the council as well, so you will have a copy of what the actual bids were, who the winning bidder was, and what the actual sale results were versus the preliminary plan. So that will be in front of you. The award sale date on the parameters would be May 30th, and then the closing would be on June 21st, is what we've identified. But again, we'll make sure a packet gets to the full council for your review as well. With that, any questions? We have happy to answer on the projects, the timing, process.
Phil, can you go over what the parameters are, the range of?
Yeah, we can. In the document, we will have identified some of the objectives. We have set a parameter primarily on the rate. It can't exceed a certain rate. That'll be identified in the official statement. We also require that they can't move maturities any more than $30,000 with any maturity as well. So those are the two primary parameters that have been laid out.
All right, well, I have a quick question, and I bet I've asked this before. But on page 5, with your summary statement of expenses and the issue size,
Yes.
Can you tell me how the finance-related expenses for the financial advisor, bond counsel, paying agent, rating fee, all that stuff, how does that vary? Is that variable by the loan amount?
Yes, well, as far as our firm, yes, it'll be it's like a sliding scale. The larger the issue, the fee goes up. And we have a standard fee schedule we use for all of our municipal clients. So that's the fee schedule we have. Bond counsel is an estimate. We don't have a final from Hush Blackwell, but based on the size of the issue, the complexity of the issue, and deals we do with them, it's an estimate that we think will be right on, or pretty close at least.
And so, and how does this compare with years past? Is this fairly consistent with what?
Very consistent,
Okay.
yes. Actually, Chapman Cutler was a little more expensive than Hush Blackwell, the former bond firm we used. The Moody's rating fee is similar. They have a standard fee schedule. It's based on the size of the issue, so that will not vary. And then the underwriter's discount, I always describe it like a point on a mortgage concept, but they will bid, the bidders will bid rate and discount, and the low for the combination will determine the winning bidder. So that's an estimate. That's a not to exceed amount, and most likely it will be less than that. What we would do with if there's monies that were not taken as part of the discount, then that'll be used to reduce the amount of the issue.
Okay. So, and based on page 7, the heartbeat looking rate calendar. So since we're voting based on parameters, and to Tom's question, do you know what the top end would be of what we'd be backing away from, borrowing from, if it exceeded a certain amount?
The peak rate was 275.
Okay. And is there any other questions from the council? Otherwise, I'd be looking for a motion to advance resolution number 2018-03.
Also move.
Is there a
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? So all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
So 4 in favor, 1 against. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Have a
Phil.
good night.
Thanks, Phil.
Okay, we'll go on to committee reports. As we go into this, I'll explain, Kent, our new mayor is not here. This was a scheduled vacation with his dad, and one of our public resources in Al Zietlow is not here. He's ill, and we just hope that he gets better soon. So moving on, licenses.
5A1, we have a temporary Class B retailer's license for the Delafield Chamber of Commerce. That was included in the packet. And for 5A2, we have a memo from me regarding the Walmart alcohol pickup. The picnic license for the Delafield Chamber of Commerce is a yearly item, so I'm not going to get into too much detail about that. But the Walmart alcohol pickup, the Wisconsin Department of Revenue states that the alcohol would have to be paid for on site. So Walmart has developed a plan where they would have somebody hold alcohol in their online virtual cart, and when they come to the store to pick it up, then they would check their ID and then pay for the alcohol actually at the store. They submitted a letter saying they wanted to change their description of premises to include these parking stalls that would be outside. The rendering that they showed in the document that is attached was not approved yet by the Plan Commission, which would, include the canopy, the bright orange, etc. So they currently just have dedicated parking stalls out in the front of their building right now. There's no action that needs to be taken on this item. They are going to be within the law on this. I do have confirmation from the Department of Revenue, and we are going to be checking their conditional use permit to see that they are all around covered to do this type of sale. Does anybody have any questions about it?
They did provide a lot of pictures of that when I looked through the packet. Do you know if this is already being done anywhere else already in Wisconsin that is still under the state law?
I don't know about Wisconsin specifically, but there are other states that are doing it, but they do have different laws for their
Right.
liquor licenses. So I'm not aware of anybody else in Wisconsin doing it, but that doesn't mean that it isn't happening.
I didn't know if we were going to be the first one they're testing this. Or,
I know we're not the first, and I also know that once this is opened up to Walmart, there will be other applicants from other stores. So I just wanted to make you guys aware that this is something that's coming.
So that's where that's where it is at, that they understand that a change to traffic flow signage and that would go through Plan Commission before it.
They have a couple of things to jump through before they are set with it, but currently, the way that they have their store laid out is that the pickup is inside the front doors, and then they have a couple of stalls that are dedicated specifically for this pickup. So they wanted to amend their liquor license for right now, bless you, for right now, to include those parking stalls as part of their premise. And going forward into the next liquor license year, they want to include all of these other items that have not yet been approved. So there's going to be some contingencies listed on the license to say you can do it right now where you have the designated pickup, but to do it the way you want it, you need to do X, Y, and Z.
Okay, so that's my concern. They showed canopies, orange stripes on the building, other things, some of which they've already come to Plan Commission about.
Right.
With their already pre-order online pickup. So as long as they know that they need to come through Plan Commission to get it done, and then any amendment to their liquor license is going to be done through us.
And conditional
in the
use
future.
permit.
Okay.
So we've got a couple of things that they have to address first if they want to do it the plan that they have listed in the drawings.
Okay. And so item A1, the licenses for discussion and action on Class B license for Delafield Chamber of Commerce, that's for the block party, or has that already been
Yes, that's
done?
for the block party.
Do we need to take action on that?
You need to take action on
Anyone want a motion to have a block party this year?
I'll move.
Second.
Thank you so much.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We're going to have a block party. And there will be liquor, apparently. Okay, anything else on Walmart?
Nothing.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on to Plan Commission. Maybe this is why Kent thought he could take today off, because it's mostly this for the meeting. Something that, I'll preface this with something that's not on here. There's been ongoing talk over, I think we're hitting our year anniversary on the Prestwick development proposal for the southeast corner of I-94 and Highway C. the plan of attack there, regardless of where they're at with negotiations with other municipalities on whatever they might want to do, is in motion for them to follow structure that's in keeping with all the laws, all the public meetings, and everything that needs to happen. And so that is still active until we hear otherwise. So minus that, we'll go to item B1, which is, those of you who have been here for more than 2 years, and understand that north of 16 is still City of Delafield near 83. Divine Redeemer Luther School at 31385 West Hill Road is City of Delafield, and they've had a temporary school extension, a building like a trailer, based on need that they initially applied for in 2012, I think. And it's been operating without complaint, but as they've renewed it in successful 2-year increments, this would be their third, apparently. Plan Commission agreed to continue the conditional use to allow them to do this with the understanding that this is, okay, one last time.
Yeah.
Saying if you have the demand, it's not our intent to let this go on indefinitely. So with that, I mean, I'll make a motion to approve the 2-year extension to allow use of an existing portable classroom for Divine Redeemer Luther School.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just wondering what's in there. Is it a regular classroom? What poor soul is in
Yeah,
winter?
I think it's been Spanish or 3rd grade. I mean, it's been different grades, and they've been maintaining their school size and growth even, despite the fact that that's the room that people go into. And
Yeah.
anyway, apparently it's working for them.
Tim, I was on the Plan Commission back then when we approved it once before, and at that time, they said that they had the need at that time. Do they want to keep it because they see the need in the future going down instead of building something permanent? They wanted to have the flexibility. Have they brought you any new information to the Plan Commission since I was?
No new information other than the fact that it's an ongoing need for the extra space. And so that's why, unlike prior 2 extensions, it's been, if you need it, build it, as opposed to having it stationed there is really what the Plan Commission's consent or their intent was in approving it again.
So nothing's really changed?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And that applies too to lack of complaints from neighboring property owners as well, which it would be odd if there was, but it's not our intent to have that be our extension, like that's us neighboring Shaniqua and Neshota, and we want to make sure that there's a longer term intent. So.
And how did they react?
They were fine.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Without any further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. Second one is introduction and discussion, so minus action here, on a resolution that was advanced from the Plan Commission regarding the declaration to intent to vacate portions of Bleecker Street, which is interesting. If you read the packet, this is Clearview between Maine and Milwaukee, and the street sort of jogs to the west as you are going from south to north, and if you look at the map, the road was intended to go straight through that area, and this goes back probably before, I'm sure before the city was even a city. And so this is to reconcile the fact that they are looking to renovate their campus with new buildings and a new site plan, and this was a surprise to them that the CSM did not reflect what the true nature of the road was. And so apparently we don't have to take action here. Maybe Tom can elaborate.
Yeah, to vacate a right-of-way, it requires the introduction of the resolution ahead of a public hearing that needs to be scheduled. The public hearing has to be at least 40 days after the introduction. So depending on the summer schedule that the council adopts, we're looking at having the public hearing for this. I think it's June 18th. Is that right, Michelle? June 18th is correct. June 18th, unless we would go to a different summer schedule, it would have to be later than that date then.
All right.
So no action required. This is just an introduction to the council and to the public at this time.
Thank you.
So, well, discussion and action to set a public hearing date. So
Yep.
should we defer that to our summer schedule discussion later?
That
make
would
sense?
be a good idea.
Okay, let's do that. We'll come back to B3. All right, so then we have B4, which is discussion action to approve ordinance number 744, which was unanimously voted forward by the Plan Commission, which is an update to our ordinance regarding what is inherently part of our conditional use capabilities for an outdoor recreational facility, which means in this particular instance, we're amending it to say you're not allowed to shoot bullets in the city as a part of a conditional use for an outdoor recreational facility. And so it does not include bow and arrow, but it'd be for the discharge of firearms as a part of an outdoor sporting club. And again, this one was voted unanimously by the Plan Commission after some discussion about where, if anywhere, there'd be an appropriate place to shoot firearms in the city. And the discussion was where it's happened in the past, it has failed, or had incidents that required some action to say it wasn't a good idea, and there's no promising prospects for additional spots. So, given that, if anyone would like to make a motion to advance this or discuss it,
So move, or you want me to second it?
you can. I'll move to advance to approve
I thought
ordinance
that's
number
what you were doing.
744.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
Question.
Yeah.
Was any discussion held regarding indoor shooting range?
None.
So this applies only to an outdoor recreational shooting range, so our ordinance would still allow an indoor range?
Okay, so they're not, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I don't know that we have, so I believe in our existing conditional use ordinance, it allowed for a shooting range to be a part of an outdoor recreational facility. So this doesn't apply to indoor recreational
Okay,
facilities.
that's what I want to make clear.
So if that's a concern, we'd have to bring that up as a separate issue, is my,
Doesn't
would
read
be
like
my
it.
understanding.
Yeah, it reads as only, to me, as an outdoor recreational facility.
It only excludes the idea that people would be shooting with open air.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussions? Do you agree, Tom?
That is correct,
Okay.
yes.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor for advancing ordinance number 744, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right. Try to make this shorter than the Plan Commission meeting. Item B5 is more housekeeping. It's an ordinance number 745. There's a disconnect between some of our time limits, where one was 45 days, I believe, and one was 60 days, where you could actually have by default, due to a scheduling quirk, have a conditional use or some other application be passed because of our requirements to make a decision by a certain date. This just brings them into sync.
Also move.
Okay,
I'll second.
any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Okay, discussion and possible action regarding proposed resolution 2018-04 regarding adoption of a public participation plan for upcoming comprehensive plan update process. So with this one, the discussion at the Plan Commission was, we did not advance the existing schedule that was in our discussion. We discussed whether or not, unless Tom will jump in if I have it wrong. We discussed the fact, based on some citizen comments and some discussions, to the extent that we wanted to advance this effort this year, based on how we're in 2018, our census will be done in 2020, results will be available in 2021, and then the master plan updates, much of which are reflective of the demographics and all that of the city. So we're still, the Plan Commission, I should say, is still discussing to what extent we want to advance the comprehensive plan update. And we did not come to a consensus at that point, but we were looking for feedback from the Plan Commission as to whether or not or from the council, as to whether or not you felt it was a good idea to do an amendment, a full-scale update, or to what extent you think you want to encourage the Plan Commission to undertake an update to the master plan.
Yeah, just to add to that a little bit, it's not a choice that we have to not update it at this time. We can put in some kind of minimal effort update at this time, but the state law does require it to be updated every 10 years, and so we do need to update it one way or another by the end of this year. It could be kind of a mini update at this time with a more full update done in 2021 with the census, if that's the direction the city would prefer to go.
Well, are we looking at the adoption of public participation plans? So you're looking at how we're going to do that? Is that what you're...
Yeah, so this resolution is something that needs to be passed in advance of the comp plan update effort, and it just indicates how we intend on incorporating the public into the process.
So the Plan Commission doesn't have an opinion?
We were a little bit split. I felt we should move ahead. I don't know to what extent that was. I think I was in the minority at the end of the discussion based on the census, but I'm concerned that we have, with development we've had with the Village Square, the elderly facility that went at Village Square, and then the Well Street Station. Those are pretty impactful as far as the quantity of multifamily housing that we have, and how we coach or steer potential developers into what they are allowed or not allowed to do based on their plans versus our comprehensive plan. I believe, my impression is that puts us over a limit of what we intended on having as far as multifamily, when that plan was put together and what we felt was necessary based on the census. And so there's a little push and pull on that idea, and some of it was to do with the effort, how much we're replicating what has, quote, just been done 10 years ago. But so I felt an update is absolutely in order, to reconcile those numbers at least, regardless of what the census says, because anyway, so that was my opinion.
And the census does provide updated data every year. It's estimated data compared to the actual census data, but it is updated information. So it's not as if we'd be utilizing 2010 census data.
Well, there's so many elements to a master plan. I would think there's a number of them you probably set aside and say we're not going to do much with. And then there's others that you might address short term. In the end, it probably would take the pressure off of 21 and maybe it goes to 22 or 23, before you...
If we did a shot in the arm update?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think these are questions that you don't want developers to answer for you.
Well said.
And I'm not saying that that limit's going to stand, but the point is I'd rather do it objectively without a specific demand on a site.
Yeah, because invariably if you ask developers to do a study on it to find out, they're going to come back with a study that says that the market warrants more multifamily.
Right.
So, and I'm not going to say that you won't get to that answer anyway, but it should be for an objective reason, not some site-specific.
Yeah, and I think the city needs to strongly consider not only does the current day market demand more multifamily, but that'll be a sustaining demand, and that the housing market 10 years from now will still want that kind of demand.
But anyway, I'm not advocating that by saying we should do it, but I do think there are elements of this thing that are stale and that we could address. The goal would be to not spend too much money, because these things get very expensive when you do a complete redo.
Well, I think too, you get overwhelmed and focused, to
Right.
sort of piggyback, so
Well,
this way
You
you
get all
have,
these layers that just,
you can be thoughtful. So I'd be inclined to agree with you, Tim, that we should do some bits that we could, if that's what you're looking for.
All right. No, good. I'm glad to hear that because I think it helps the Plan Commission with their decisions too, to have the updated data.
Yeah.
'Cause-
I think sometimes it's helpful for us to give them our opinion.
yeah.
I mean, I've been on that side too, and so what do the elected officials think? Because the Plan Commission will implement it.
Yeah,
If they should do it, they will implement it.
it wasn't for lack, it really came down to who's signing up for this regimen. So if you look at the Plan Commission minutes, who's wants to sign up for this regimen of hours?
It's a lot of work.
And Kent was a part of it
Right.
and put in those hours and cautioned everyone, like, this is a big commitment, it's a lot of hours, a lot of work. And it didn't scare people away, it deferred their immediate opinion, I should say, as far as how important it was, how pressing it was for today. And that was coupled with, again, like I said, citizen input at the meeting saying, why would we go, we're out of sync with the census. And so maybe if we did a 70% effort or 60% effort now, we could do the 100% effort in 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And have it be reflective of what the census says. So,
Yep.
I mean, I'll take that feedback back to the Plan Commission and then we'll get the ball rolling, and that will, despite the amount of money we budgeted for city planner and consulting services, we should see a reduction in that then based on a tempered plan. But, so we need to take action on something tonight?
Yeah, the resolution
Okay.
approving the public participation plan.
I'll move to approve
I'll
the
second.
resolution.
And I'll just say that the public participation plan is intensive and it requests and requires lots of public participation, so.
I think that's what makes it really precious, though. I really do. And I had so many people who speak to me about city issues reference that thing routinely. So I think it is worth it.
So who's second, I'm sorry?
Jackie.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, there's a motion and a second to approve the public participation plan and the comprehensive plan update. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, motion carries. All right, where are we at? With that, I'll move on to Lake Welfare Committee, which I don't have the updated list. Who's on Lake Welfare? Who's our,
Not I.
okay, I'm gonna assume that we
Who
don't.
is on Lake Welfare?
Well, you know, I might be on it.
I think Jim is on it. Jim, I think
I
you are
haven't
on it.
focused on the,
No meeting.
I don't think we've had a meeting. If
Just
you,
say no
I
meeting,
am
no
on it.
report.
That's right.
we'll say no
The
meeting.
meeting is this week,
It is
Right.
Jim Barron
In 2
that is
days.
on that.
yeah.
Okay.
no, it's-
meeting on
Meeting.
Wednesday.
We'll not hold that against you with your lengthy public service. All right, so Park and Recreation Committee.
Park and Rec. Okay, I'm going to throw some days at you. First of all, the Park Walk. The annual Park Walk to go over all the potential capital projects for Park and Rec is happening June 2nd, 9 a.m. We are meeting at the Liberty Park Bridge. From there, we'll be heading west towards Cushing Park. And please refer to your minutes for potential capital projects being discussed at that time. Couple more dates, the Bark River Cleanup. All this is 9 a.m. It's May 20th, June 3rd, June 10th, and June 17th. And then the last date I'll throw at you is the Kids Fishing Day. City of Delafield, free fishing day for kids. That is May 19th at the Delafield Fish Hatchery Pond, 9 to 10 a.m., 10 to 11 a.m. Let's just do 9 to 11. All kids ages 6 to 12 years old, and the cost is free. Should be a good time.
Great, and is that it for Park and Rec?
Hold on, I want
Okay.
to make sure. I think that's it for Park and Rec.
All right, I don't mean to jump in, but the fishing day is awesome. If you're just someone who is wondering why it's called a fish hatchery, there is fish in that pond. And it's the best time to get it, though it's not choked out with weeds yet.
Right.
And it is, if you show up, someone from Dick Smith's will hand you a fishing pole if you don't have one. And if you don't know how to use one, they'll show you how to use it, and you'll catch a fish, I guarantee it. So it's a fun time.
Yep. Dave Brabson is heading that up.
All right. So with that, Public Works.
I'll call your attention to the minutes of the meeting for May 2nd, but also item of note, at that meeting we discussed the Hendricks property at 705 Genesee Street. Most of our discussions centered around the traffic study and the parking study. While we concurred with the results of the traffic performance review study, we wanted more information about the parking issue. So we've asked them to go back and do more of a study on parking on more busier nights. So that's what we kind of asked them to do, go back and give us a little bit more study relating to parking on Thursdays, Fridays, some of those busier nights.
Okay, great. And I was remiss in mentioning that during my report. We did have Hendricks at our Plan Commission meeting last month, and there was a major focus on traffic. We spent probably 45 minutes talking about the traffic report on potential impact for what Pat Holly, their consultant, referenced as the extreme high side of the traffic impact. And if you weren't fortunate enough to hear that meeting in person or on tape, really there was some dispute over, exactly what all those numbers meant, but we questioned, how they arrive at them and what the math was. And at the end, it's going to have an impact on traffic, and it's going to be, if you imagine where it's about as bad as it ever gets, not on a Saturday afternoon when there's some parade, but on a busy day, the impact of your weight at stop signs, that's a C level as opposed to A or B, and it just simply spread those C levels out more frequently. It didn't drop service down to a point where we'd have locked up traffic, and or I described it as white knuckled, on your steering wheel. How do I get out of this town? But that's a major concern, and they're going to revisit it again. And we also talked about the aesthetics of the building, the height, the size. It's still all an issue. We gave them feedback, and we asked for parameters and more specific diagrams of the building as if it was treated exactly the same as the building where Lang built on the south side, Delafield Square, where there was some concessions based on setback versus height. And we said, essentially they had a walking message to come back to us saying, show us the math, show us some visuals, how is it going to look relative to other building sizes? And there was some ideas floated their way about how to trim it. So we'll see what they come back with. So I didn't mean to hijack the Public Works, but I was remiss in mentioning that. So. Delhart, we have a meeting next week, Tuesday. Police Commission, I don't believe there's a meeting. Library Board.
First meeting that I will be on the board will be tomorrow, right here, 6:30. Aloha.
And well, great, and I brought it up just because I know Al's been on Library Board forever, and he usually has his list, so in his absence, I'm just going to go to our website and look at all the programs, because we're hitting summer, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'll just read through from May 8th through May 20th on our website. There's a superhero, super special story time, there's a tech course, there's another superhero story time, there's a baby bounce, there's a kitchen science. We have a wounded warrior that's coming in to speak on Thursday, May 10th. There's coloring and coffee. It's supposed to be relaxing, but I don't know the coffee balance. We're closed on Mother's Day. There's a senior walking club. There's another tech course. Yarn knitting group. Read to Gracie, who's a dog who apparently loves being read to. Coloring and coffee again, book sale. And then there's a author event on Sunday, May 20th for Victoria Aviard and Brittany Cavallero about mental illness and taking care of people in their later stages. And that's just all happening before the end of the month. So I don't mean to upstage you. I just had it in front of me. I thought I didn't know. I wanted to fill in for Al. So okay, so Board of Zoning. I don't believe there was a meeting. Promotional and tourism.
That's me.
All right.
And there's a meeting tomorrow. The minutes from last month are attached.
Okay, and Lake Country Fire Commission, Lake Country Fire Board.
The board met on the 26th. Just a few updates. Statement of revenues and expenses are in your packet, as are the call volume. Call volume has been very busy, continuing the trend from 2017. There are plus 136 calls year over year. So they are kind of busting at the seams. We will have our auditor report next month on May 31st at 6 p.m. So if you are available and interested, please feel free to attend. And lastly, just an update on some of the programs. The training center is doing well. The Kettle Moraine HS Squared program, the St. John's program, all are going well and wrapping up. And Arrowhead will begin in the fall.
Very good. Tree Board.
Tree Board. Tree Board met last couple weeks ago on the 27th of April. The 5-year plan, the tree planting plan was approved. I can add that to the packet next year if you want a refresher on that. Also, the tree brochure, which Jackie was instrumental in developing. The goal is to have that available in the communicator eventually, and available on the website year-round eventually.
Very good. All right, so moving on to number 6, unfinished business. Discussion and possible action to approve the city's official newspaper for city business. Michelle, you put together a nice letter of recommendation. Would you like to
Sure. I'll just
summarize it for us?
Summary. So I called both the Lake Country Now and the Waukesha Freeman and had them give me a per line, per run cost, which was pretty close to the same thing. I also asked them to try and figure out, based on the zip code, how many subscribers they had to each of their papers. We didn't include the Heartland or Neshota zip codes because it would be all of that. The 53018 zip code does include residents from the town, but it was the closest number we could get to having somewhat of an accurate overview of how many subscribers there were. So the 53018 for the the Lake Country Now had approximately 1,284 paid subscribers, and the Freeman had about 145 with 25 in-store bundles. We didn't have enough information overall that was that concise based on these zip codes, but just based on the number of subscribers alone, with the cost being almost the same for both, I recommended that we continue to go with the Lake Country Now as our official newspaper for the city of Delafield.
I'll move to make Lake Country Now the official newspaper designated for the city of Delafield.
Second?
Thank you.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Lake Country Now is our newspaper. Very good. With that, I will help Kent in his absence on the mayor's report, which is limited to the Municipal Courts Week proclamation. And looking at it, it was blacked off the section I was supposed to say, but I'm just going to read Michelle's job description and read the whole thing. If you bear with me for 90 seconds. Proclamation, Municipal Clerks Week for May 6th through 12th, 2018. Whereas the Office of the Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the Office of the Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the Office of the Municipal Clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, whereas the municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community, whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in education, programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations, whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the municipal clerk, Now therefore, I, on behalf of Kent Atwell, the mayor of the city of Delafield, do recognize the week of May 6th through May 12th as Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our municipal clerk, Michelle Ludke, and to all municipal clerks for their vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. So there's no fireworks or anything, I think. All right, so new business, discussion action regarding Resolution 2018-05, requesting outdoor recreation aids from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and Development of park property at 826 Genesee Street. So I will defer that, I think I'll turn that over to Tom.
Yes. Yeah, so this is for the project that we recently bid and rejected the bids on. Not only is it the 826 Genesee Street property, but it's also the Bark River stream bank stabilization and the burying of the overhead pipe that crosses the Bark River. What we did here is we talked to the DNR and let them know that we are going to be rebidding the project. But there was an opportunity to apply for a grant amendment. It was due by May 1st, so time was of the essence. And we applied for the full difference between the original grant and what the first round of bids actually came in at. That doesn't mean that we need to accept that amount. We just need to put a number on paper for our application that was due by May 1st. Once we get the actual bids, which are being opened this Thursday, then we'll have the opportunity to let the DNR know, hey, we don't need another 150,000, we only need another 10,000 or 20,000 or 40,000 or whatever the number ends up being. And that way we are able to maximize the DNR's participation in paying for 50% of the project. One requirement of that application that we were allowed to turn in after the fact is a resolution by the council committing that the city will pay for half of the project.
Also move.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carries. And then discussion and possible action to set a summer schedule for common council meetings. And if you recall, we typically have one meeting a month in summer, with us all being aware that we will come running if we're called to based on demands that we'd normally be satisfying with the normal schedule. Do you need to elaborate further on that, or do we have a tentative schedule of dates?
Yeah, what I put in the memo is a recommendation that we would hold the meetings on the third Monday of June, July, and August, and that we would not hold the meetings on the first Monday of those 3 months unless it was necessary. And the main rationale for that is the proximity of the first Monday in July to the Independence Day holiday and likely vacations during that time.
Need a motion?
Yes, it would be appreciated.
I'll move that we accept the third Monday in June, July, and August as our meeting dates.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries.
We need to go back to item 5B3.
So thank you. Item 5B3 was discussion action to set a public hearing date as required for passage of the resolution regarding intent to vacate portions of Bleecker Street. So I'll move that we hold that public hearing on June 18th.
Yes.
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for reminding me. All right. So, report of city officials, administrator.
Yeah, 2 items. First of all, in your packet, you'll see our 2019 budget process timeline. The primary dates on there for the council and the public is by October 8th, we will have a published budget distributed to the council members. October 16th is the date of our annual workshop to go over the budget. November 5th would be the public hearing for the budget. And then lastly, November 19th would be the evening that we would go over and approve a budget, which is all consistent with the timeline that we've utilized for many years now. Any questions on that? Okay. The next item is just an update regarding Heartland Sportsman's Club. I did send an email to the council, I think it was last week Thursday, that Attorney Hammis saw that the gun club has filed a new lawsuit against the city. I don't believe, Michelle, that we've been served with that yet.
We have not.
Right. But I will be in discussions with the mayor and Attorney Hammes and looking to see how we proceed with that. And there will likely be a closed session on one of our upcoming schedules to bring the council up to date on the details of that.
Oh, boy.
Yes. That concludes my report for this evening.
Okay, clerk report.
We have a discussion and action on the voucher list that was submitted around earlier.
I move to approve the voucher list.
Second?
I have one point of discussion. At some point, let us know, I saw a bill, I'm assuming hydrate is for hydrate? Might be, is that for salt? For DPW? If not, I'm curious, maybe in our next meeting, if you could let us.
That might be a chemical company.
Oh, okay.
Hydrate.
Regardless, I'm curious
Yeah.
how we turned out this winter on salt.
We were
I don't know if it's in
doing
the-
wonderful until the last round. We were going to finish with a full
right, so-
shed, but I can put together a report on that.
That'd be all right. It
Yep.
may not directly apply to this voucher list.
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the voucher list, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Any requests for items for future agendas?
I have something I'd like to, I'm not sure if it should be just a presentation and then for future discussion and action, and to consider the creation of a separately meeting, separate committee for the tree board, not connected to any other committee.
Okay,
And I'd like to present that.
fair enough. Any others? All right. Reference the fact that we've got correspondence. There's one I thought would be worth pointing out. There's a nicely written letter from a Arrowhead student looking for more sidewalks.
Yeah.
And just an annual letter about We Energies and American Transmission Company. If you're not sure if you're